Hi, I'm Nate Bronner with the Virginia Cooperative Extension, the Master Naturalists, and the Master Gardeners programs. I'd like to welcome you to the Yorktown battlefield. Today I'm standing out on the battlefield next to a dogwood tree. Now, the dogwood is one of our many native trees in Virginia, and it provides our state flower. Well, I'm standing out here because people usually ask me about how do they bring more pollinators to their garden? How do they have more butterflies in their garden? And certainly there are lots of things that you can do in the springtime and in the summertime to bring pollinators to your garden. But one of the most important things that you can do is right now in the fall, and it deals with trees like this dogwood tree. Now, we all know in the springtime, the dogwood grows fresh leaves that are nice and green because of all of the chlorophyll in them. And it uses those leaves and puts a lot of resources into them to build that chlorophyll and all of the chemistry of those leaves, so it can produce energy. And the tree uses that energy to grow, to put out new growth, and to store some of that energy. And then other animals will come by and they will harvest that energy out of the plant, sometimes by eating some of the leaves and gnawing on the tree. And so all of that energy comes from these leaves. Well, come the fall, the days start getting shorter. We start losing some of the thermal energy around us, so the temperatures start dropping off, and the tree senses that. And so what the tree does is it takes all of those resources that it invested in its leaves, and it starts harvesting them. So it made that investment in the leaves in the beginning so it can make energy, kind of like how we invest money so we can make more money. Well, in this case, the tree wants to recoup that investment. So it starts pulling out that nitrogen and the magnesium and the phosphorus that it puts into the leaves, and it starts sucking it out of it. And because of that, the chlorophyll breaks down. When the chlorophyll breaks down, the leaves change color. And that's why we see the leaves changing to a red color in the case of the dogwood, or in some trees, orange or yellow colors. And then after a while, and they've lost all of their chlorophyll, so they're not performing a function for the tree anymore, then the tree will let go of it by releasing hormones called auxins and some ethylene to get these leaves to fall off. It goes through the winter, it survives off of the energy that it stored up, and the next year it takes all of those resources that it grabbed back from the leaves and it puts it out there again. It's kind of the circle of life for the tree. But other things depend on these trees as well. In fact, for Lepidoptera, that is the genus of insects that includes moths and butterflies, they depend on native plants as a food source. In fact, most of them will only eat one kind of plant in their lifetime. The most well-known of that are the monarch butterflies and their relationship with milkweed. But the spring azure butterfly, its host plant is the dogwood. Many of our oaks in our area, oaks are one of the most important trees for Lepidoptera. Oaks, in general, the genus Quercus, supports over 530 different species of Lepidoptera. It's a huge number. And where do all of those butterflies, where do all those moths in their caterpillar form, where do they eat? What part of that host plant do they depend on? It's these leaves. They depend on all of these leaves. And when they lay their eggs, where do they lay them? Well, they lay them on the leaves, so that when those eggs hatch and the caterpillars come out, they can have a food source right there. Well, what happens if you take all of these leaves away from your yard? What are you taking away? Well, those caterpillars and those butterflies, the butterflies that came by in late fall to lay their eggs there, those butterflies are not going to live that much longer. Most of our insects go through winter in either the chrysalis form or the egg form as they go through winter. Not all of them, but most of them. And they will have laid those chrysalises and those eggs right here on the host plant. Now, these are going to fall off and they're going to litter your yard. And you're going to want them off of your grass because you want your grass to stay green and you would like your yard to look good. But if you send all of these leaves away, then you're sending away all of the eggs that will hatch in the spring into new butterflies and moths. And you don't necessarily want that to happen. So you've got a couple of options. Number one, if you chop up these leaves, you're going to probably destroy some eggs. Now, sometimes you can't get around that. You need to mow your yard and there are going to be leaves there and you're going to have to chop them. But if you take that leaf litter and you blow it off your yard and put it in a back area of your property. Maybe you have a leaf pile that you let go through the winter, and you have a natural area of your yard, or maybe you just take a small section of your yard, maybe a 3x3 area, and you pile the leaves up there and keep them in that area. Those eggs will still survive. Those insects will still survive. Those butterflies will still survive. And come the springtime, when they hatch out and they're ready to start flying around and they're ready to start living again, they'll still be there in your yard. But if you bag all of these leaves up after they fall and you send them off to the dump, all of those butterflies and moths that used to live in your yard, you're sending those off someplace else, and they're going to be leaving your yard. So if you want butterflies, if you want to encourage butterflies in your yard, if you like seeing them in the spring and in the summer, then do something for them in the fall and the winter. Take the leaves, put it in a small area of your yard where you can let them rest over the winter, and then emerge in the spring and enjoy the beauty. Thanks for joining me again on the battlefield. If you'd like to read more about this subject, I'm going to leave some links at the end of this video where you can read more about the relationship between butterflies and their host plants. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And thanks for joining me again in my garden.